This is The Strange Recital, a podcast about fiction which questions the nature of reality.
The soothing sounds of the Chainsaw Americans. You can hear them, less than a quarter of a mile away, marching up the avenue. Thousands of them, buzzing in unison, louder than a flock of Harleys. There's only one sound missing from that march, and that's the sound of my Vase Deferens KR-14. A stub titanium blade with monster horsepower. That stump daddy may look like a chump chainsaw, but the speed of the chain and zero-gravity weight makes up for what it lacks in a long dong of titanium steel. The song of my Vase Deferens is a mighty scree, one I'll be cranking sooner than later. Generally, I'm not an open carry kind of guy. That's why I left my vase in Harlow's apartment. But soon as I drop him off, I'll crank up the vase, grind that stump daddy over my head, join the march. My saw among the many. I'm a dog walker, and Harlow's my last walk of the day. A bulldog with a toothy underbite and a thick-headed strut. I'm cutting his walk short, not proud of it. He seems annoyed, too, as I drag him past a prime hub for P-mail. I'd have done it regardless. It's insulting. No dog should be allowed to pee on the leg of a mailbox from the United States Postal Service. See how the leg is corroded? Soon it'll be a three-legged mailbox. There should be consequences for such behavior, laws drafted, fines enforced, and incarceration for repeat offenders. And I'm not talking dogs, but their owners and walkers who allow such an act to continue. Sorry, Harlow. There you will not pee. But the stand of a coin-operated phone? Have at it. Then we pick up the pace, 2.5 blocks from dropping Harlow off at his apartment, 2.5 blocks from my vase, waiting for me in its snap lock case. I can feel the excitement tingling up into my arms. We're on West 11th Street, 6th Avenue up ahead. That's where the march is happening, on the Avenue of the Americas. Listen to them, Harlow. Marching from downtown, a crank and rod choir of saws, farm boss to Makita, craftsman, and if you sharpen your ear, you can hear the gentle flourish of greenwork blades, those lithium go-getters, hedge snippers with Jurassic teeth. But come on, the testosterone of a saw doesn't come with an electrical chatter. It comes with the stink of a diesel boost, something you can trigger. A high-powered extension of the arms. But today, a saw's a saw, even if you have to plug yours into the wall to charge it up. Long as you hold yours over your head during the march, grind that sucker at the air, you'll be one of many. That's the sound of freedom. The hip-hip hooray of America. A mighty buzz. Makes a man sniffle. Enough to thumb a tear from my eye. Makes me want to sing. Sing with me, Harlow. Oh, beautiful for gracious saws, from tree to shining tree, confirm thy soul in self-control, saw down your fellow trees. Americans, Americans, brandish your saws for thee. Oh, man. Feel the boom thunder beneath your feet. The notch and carve of felling a virgin tree, wood pulped into paper, ink on the Constitution, men in colonial wigs, scribing our rights. Why, had it not been a yank to the arm, a skin burn to the wrist, the leash pulled tight, Harlow was looking at me from where he has slammed on the brakes like, get over yourself, dude. Then I tugged the leash, and we're back in action. Harlow reluctantly marching behind me. I can sense through the leash, as he continues to pull against my charge, that he's stressed by the march of saws. The collective buzzing getting louder, and as we turn onto 6th Avenue, with a squint, I can see them approaching. I know we should be rushing along. My vase only 2 blocks away. But first, I must salute. Waggle my imaginary saw overhead. Give it a buzz with clenched teeth, working the sound up from the meat of my throat. This stresses Harlow out even more. Then I have to assure him, tell him Chainsaw Americans are not a haphazard crew. There's no tomfoolery. No, sir. There are regulations, rules of safety to abide by. Don't let the pull of the saw pull you into an accident. You have to respect the saw. Stand tall when you work it. Bend your knees with a boxer's stance. Never, ever power up your saw inside your home or bedroom or bathroom. The garage is okay. Know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure Harlow does. His owners are NPR fanatics. Harlow's always zonked out on the beanbag when I pick him up for his walk, tranquilized on Lakshmi Singh. In fact, Lakshmi was reporting today about a record turnout for today's march. Though she could have been more enthusiastic about it, you'd think someone sawed the legs off her desk. It's not personal, it's electoral. Just how the confetti popped red this past election. Hey! I point for Harlow to see. There's a handwritten sign in the restaurant window beneath a dozen hung Peking ducks painted on the glass. Even this Chinese restaurant values the importance of the Chainsaw Americans. See? 10% off for Chainsaw Good people. They know what we bring to this country. Though, why they wrote Chainsaw Good people instead of Chainsaw Americans, I'll be sure to ask. Maybe their English is off, but still, seeing that, you know they know what's up with the Chainsaw Americans. It's not just a tiered system of entitlement either. Like I said, any saw can join, so can any race, religion, creed, or cretin for that matter, even if the beans in the brain are askew, as some might say of me. But hey, long as you're an American, all we need's proof of citizenship. 12 out of the 14 stated documents: birth certificate, passport, dental records, proof of paying taxes, license to carry a chainsaw. Rest assured, health insurance is not one of the 14 documents, so don't go sweating that. Then there's the one in the family, all in the family clause, which means even you, Harlow, could be a Chainsaw American, if one of your owners joined. Then we could eat all the Chinese with our chainsaws, 10% off. That didn't sound right, did it? I meant Chinese food like they meant Americans when they scribbled good people on that sign. But there's always more than one way to read something. In fact, some people try to drag the good out of Chainsaw Americans. Saying the name implies that's what we want to do, as in Chainsaw Americans to pieces. Oh man, they're close. Even from the lobby of the Bruegel, you can hear them marching up the avenue. We're waiting for an elevator, and Harlow's still got the grumps, like I jilted him out of his walk. But your owners will be home soon. That's the frown I give him before I smile with glee, knowing soon I'll be with the saws, thousands of them. There are some fans outside, too, there to greet those Chainsaw Americans, snap pics, post live feeds, and sure, some protesters, too. Permanent markers scribbled on tree-free poster board. Stop the chop. Paper-free America. Some nasty ones, too. What if I clear-cut the Garden of Eden? And to that I'd say there'd be more Bibles. Though I'm not a man of God. I'm a man of the saw. My vase deferens KR14. Now, only an elevator ride away. But worse than gum on your shoe, these elevators are stuck to the shaft. One's out of service. Okay, one's moving up now. Going up, up, up. But still there's another one stalled on the 14th floor, which is really the 13th floor. See, even here superstition follows everyone around. Can't have a 13th floor. No one would live on it. Only there is a 13th floor. They just skipped it, calling it the 14th floor. That's where Harlow lives, too, on the 13th floor. Oops, did I just say that out loud? But with Chainsaw Americans, there is no superstition, only the power of the grind. But it does cross my mind that a KR-14 could be a stand-in for KR-13. But, like I said, Chainsaw Americans are not superstitious. Finally, we're at Harlow's apartment, and if his owners had lived on the other side of the hallway, I'd have an aerial view from their window of the march below. Let's get this over and done with. Harlow, scoot, scoot, scoot. I closed the door behind me because he has this tendency to dart out into the hall. Then I unleash him, give him a wink, grab a Kong from the freezer, his post-walk treat, a bouncy chew toy filled with peanut butter. But I'm too excited to hand the Kong off to Harlow, leaving it on the dresser beside the front door. All I can do is stare at the carry case also on the dresser. I unbuckle the snaps. There it is like a sax in the case. My Vaz Deferens KR-14. My stump daddy. My American right. Maybe I'll just crank it up a little. Give Harlow a show. I know. I'm breaking one of the cardinal rules of being a Chainsaw American, but today's a special day. I crouch before the saw after setting it on the Persian carpet, holding it in place with my foot. Let's crank this baby up. And damn it, Harlow, you have to back off. Seriously, this saw will buzz you in half. Quit fooling. I guess I was too excited, leaving his peanut butter Kong on the dresser. I should have given it to him before yanking the starter cord. But my instinct for the saw is too strong. What we have here, Harlow, is a conflict of interest, as when a man eats first before feeding his dog. Thus, a man of the saw must crank his vase before treating Harlow to a Kong. Oh man, I can already hear the march through the walls, and I'm buzzing that stump daddy over my head. Breathe! Who's the boss, Harlow? Who's the boss? Let's just say this doesn't end well. I could spare you the details. How Harlow charged into my ankle like a bowling ball with teeth. How my hold on the vase swung down to my thigh. A gourd spray accenting the wall. A supreme act of idiocy, I know. No fault of Harlow's. I should have given him his Kong, and now I do, before slumping to the floor, knocking it from the dresser, watching him chase after it as it bounces across the carpet. Harlow's fine. Just some blood spatter to the face. Like all he wanted was the Kong. Like all I wanted was the vase. Makes us both creatures of instinct. Though I've always considered mine free will. The right to buzz a saw. The right to Friday night Boilermakers. The right to jam down on an all-you-can-eat breakfast at 4 a.m. Is this no different than Harlow gnawing and tonguing the peanut butter from his Kong? Absolutely dogged I am with salutations of pride, even with the vase still wedged in my leg, wedged enough, I fear, that pulling it free would mean another spurt from the deep vein in my thigh. My hands are too slip-sliding bloody to use the phone. All one can do is sing. Right, Harlow? I can hear the march through the door, and the outer hall and the doors of the opposing apartments, beyond the outer walls of the Bugel, 13 stories below. I can hear them, marching in the thousands. Far too loud. Far too proud for any call for help to be heard. I warm myself with a consoling hug against the chill shuddering through my bones. Sing with me, Harlow. Oh, beautiful or gracious songs.
That was Man of the Saw, written and read by Ian Caskey. Man of the Saw is from the collection of short stories Voices in the Dirt by Ian Caskey, Recital Publishing, 2021.
Hey there, Ian. Welcome back to the Strange Recital.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here.
How's Brooklyn these days?
Brooklyn's good. We've had a good summer so far.
Nice.
Occasional muggy day, but people are really starting to get out and about, outdoor dining, out in the park. It's really nice to see.
Sounds good.
This is the fourth story of yours we've featured on the podcast, and all of them are found in your collection, Voices in the Dirt, which came out last fall from Recital Publishing. Tell us how things have been going with the book. You had a launch event, right?
The launch event was this past March at 11 Newell Gallery in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. We had a really nice turnout. Terror Babies opened up, my friend Adam Kane's jazz-infused rock band. It was their premiere gig, and they totally crushed it. Then I read an excerpt from the collection, and then another excerpt with the Terror Babies playing along, which turned out to be the magical moment of the event.
Cool.
The crowd response was really good. It was a lot of fun to do a dramatic reading with the Terror Babies, grooving along with this semi-ominous vibe. After that, filmmaker Amos Poe and I did a Q&A. The whole event was a total blast. You can see highlights of it on my website at iancaskey.com.
Great.
Also, I'll be setting up some in-person readings with musical accompaniment this fall, either in Brooklyn or Manhattan or both. So be on the lookout for that.
Will do.
There are a number of stories in your collection that use a first-person narrative voice, and some of them could almost be the same person. But I think the narrator of Man of the Saw is a bit different. What would you say about him?
Yes, this narrator is a bit different, whereas the other first-person narrators you're referencing in the collection, I think of mostly as varied versions of myself. But with this narrator, the approach was more sort of as a caricature, like this amped-up persona of this obsessive personality type. But I will say this narrator was very easy for me to channel, so maybe I'm closer to him than I'd like to admit, though I don't own any chainsaws, but I do have a Leatherman with spring-action pliers and a mean little saw.
I imagine this story was born during the Trump presidency. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was indeed. Try as I might during that presidency, I couldn't stop doom-scrolling the news.
Yeah.
And by grand mutation of imagination, this narrator one day suddenly boiled up onto the page.
I just read an article by Mary Gateskill about political fiction, how it works best when the intimate details of human life still stay forefront. But she's not talking about satire, and maybe Man of the Saw shouldn't be considered political at all. What do you think?
Definitely satire, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Political, it certainly invites that interpretation. But for me, I just wanted to see where this babbling crackpot would end up.
Yeah.
Can't say I was sad to see him saw into his own leg. But I do identify with the self-sabotage. There's been instances, not where I've sawed into my own leg, but rather where I've really bungled things up before going to an important event that I'm really excited about. So again, in that sense, I could see a little bit of me in him, and this story being almost a semi-autobiographical metaphor for my own excitability leading up to important events.
Mm-hmm.
I've often pondered the link between art and politics. Some believe that all art should be political. That's a strident opinion. But maybe art actually is political by offering an alternate sensibility to the self-serving, smarmy, mendacious doublespeak that's the norm. What do you think?
If all art was political, that would be a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is art that invites me to dream, art that's open to interpretation, art that feels like a conversation between two people, the work itself and the person experiencing it.
Yeah, and having a laugh is always good.
Yes, absolutely. I grew up with Monty Python, The Three Stooges, Dumb and Dumber. I think I've always had a difficult time taking life too serious. In fact, I rely on a healthy dose of humor to keep myself sane. Now, I've had stone cold bouts without any sense of humor, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But there does seem to be a lot of that going around. Now, with his narrator in Man of the Saw, I totally see him as absurd, but I don't think he sees himself that way. And that's where the real danger lies.
Yeah.
Well, your narrator never should have been on the 13th floor of the Bruegel building, that's for sure.
Indeed not.
He stepped into a bizarre dimension of doom. Has walking dogs ever taken you to the wrong place at the wrong time?
Right, yes. I'm a dog walker like the narrator in Man of the Saw. I've been walking dogs in Greenwich Village for more than a decade. Shout out to all the doggies. Oof, oof. I did open a door once to a naked man.
Uh-oh.
He was about my father's age. It was totally embarrassing. I shut the door as fast as I'd opened it. I was there to pick up a couple of chihuahuas. Which I did. We were both well-humored about it after he got his clothes on. Certainly could have been a different kind of situation. Certainly a little good seed or germ for a story.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was one of those oops, sorry moments. So definitely wrong place, wrong time.
Hopefully you closed the door carefully. Now, have you been working on any other stories you'd like to tell us about?
I recently finished a story I've been working on for years about a lonely furniture dealer in Manhattan who befriends this elderly woman claiming to be a famous artist. She wants him to accompany her to the Diabeacon Gallery to see some of her artwork. But when he finds out there's a silver alert out in her name, he has to decide between turning her over to the authorities or fulfilling her wish of going to Diabeacon. Ultimately, it's a heartbreaker of a story about mental illness, but also a story that follows an unlikely friendship on this fun and, at times, crazy adventure.
Well, thanks, Ian. It's been a pleasure once again. And thanks for bringing in your bulldog, Harlow. He seems like a sweetheart.
You're welcome. My pleasure. But Harlow, he doesn't like to be talked about.
Down, boy. Down. Here, have my lunch.
Whew, that was close.
Yeah, you guys are lucky to be alive.
This is The Strange Recital on the web at thestrangerecital.com. The music on this episode was Death is Our Only God by Silent Carrion. This is episode 22091. Harlow left something outside the door.